Hi everyone, this is Kathy over at Color Me Mine. Today we're going to paint an essential bowl to look like a watermelon, and I'm just using this salad plate to give you an idea of what it will look like once it's done. Fun bright colors, some just watermelon seeds. Back of the bowl is going to match the plate. It's going to look just like the rind of a watermelon. Super fun, easy to do technique. And seeing as we already have this plate, we're going to do it on a bowl today. This design can really be done on just about anything. If you're painting this here in our studio, you would want to pre-wash the ceramics just by taking a damp sponge and wiping it down. We really just want to get the dust off of the ceramics just to make sure we don't get dust mixed in with our paint. If you're painting at home with one of our to-go kits, all of our to-go kits have been pre-washed for you. We want to keep everything super clean for you. So they're already pre-washed, so all you're going to do is unwrap it from the bubble wrap and you're ready to go. So for this particular one, we do have the step-by-step instructions all printed out, and if you do want to request those, you certainly can. It's also something that's available on our projects page on our website. You just look for the watermelon bowl that's on there. It's currently on there. Our projects page does change from time to time, so if it's not there, just reach out to us and we can email it to you or print you a copy if you're here in the studio and hand it to you so you can follow along step by step. We're going to paint today, and then remember, if you haven't painted here before, or if you haven't, maybe it's been a while, the colors are going to look very dull and chalky, and then after we glaze and fire it is when the colors are going to turn into be the bright shiny colors like this. After we glaze and fire it, these items are considered food safe, so you certainly can use this to eat out of. You can put some fruit in there. People use these as individual popcorn bowls, but these are great. They can also just be used as a little trinket, a key holder, or a little jewelry dish, something that you can use there. So very useful. Which I love, and with our franchise guidelines with Color Me Mine, everything does need to be food safe when it goes out to you, especially if it is a food item. So, you know, that's wonderful that you can safely use these. The paints are water-based, safe, non-toxic. They do easily wash out of clothes. So again, if you're doing this at home and you're concerned about that, they will easily wash out of clothes. But prepare your painting area with just maybe just some you know, we just have paper down on our table. You want to get a few things handy, just get your paint colors. So for this one, we're using number 98, which is called Redhead. Number 27 is called Kiwi. We're using number 49, which is our Christmas tree green. You could also use number 8. Either one of those darker greens will work out great. And number 31, which is licorice, in our black, and that'll be for the seeds. The white areas, we're going to leave the rim of the bowl white, and as you see, just around the border area, the white area we're not even going to paint white, because any area of bisque that you don't paint will be glazed and fired afterwards, and it will be a shiny white. So we don't need white paint for this particular project. We would just need these 4 colors. If you're ordering it as a to-go kit, just request these colors and we can include it. And if you would like the step-by-step instructions, just let us know. We can print it and include it. If you're painting at home, your paints are gonna come in little to-go kits like this, little to-go cups. You can either work right out of that for the paint, or you could pour it on a plate that you might use at home, a ceramic plate, or even just a paper plate, and just pour it right on there to create your little paint palette. So we're gonna follow along today and just do this real simple. So basically what our instructions say right here is wash the bowl again. If you're doing this at home, it's already been pre-washed. And now what we wanna do is we wanna apply 3 coats using a sponge or a large brush on the inside of the bowl. So we're going to use a large brush. If you have brushes at home for your to-go kit, definitely use those. You can also pick up some at local craft stores, or you can purchase paint brushes on our website as well. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to paint the inside of the bowl red, and it's just going to match the outside of this salad plate. So sometimes it helps just to get your brush wet, just dip it once in water, and then after that, for the most part, I'm just going to use paint and just gonna paint. So I'm just gonna paint the area in here, you guys, super, super simple. We wanna do 3 coats of this to get a nice deep red color. 1 coat alone may look like you're covering it completely, but it's actually going to look kind of streaky when you get it back, almost more like a watercolor look. So if you want the watercolor look, 1 or 2 coats of paint is just fine. But for this particular look, we want to get a nice juicy red watermelon going here. So we're going to paint this, and when it comes up to the edges, we don't want to go all the way up to the rim of the bowl because we want to kind of have like a rind area look to it. So we can just randomly paint up to the edge, and it doesn't have to be a sharp line because this is fruit and it's not perfect. So that's really what 1 coat of red looks like. Again, it has almost like a pinky color look to it. And believe it or not, after we glaze and fire it, it's gonna turn into this bright, bright red shiny color. So before we do our 2nd and our 3rd coat, we would want to dry it. There's a couple different ways you can dry it. Keeping it super simple at home, if you just grab a paper plate and just kind of fan it, or that might be the time to go take a little break and wait for this to dry. It doesn't take too long. It's going to turn into a light chalky color when it's dry and ready for the 2nd or 3rd coat. If you want, you could use a blow dryer, a hair dryer. You would definitely want to do it on a low setting, preferably on a cool setting, because otherwise the paint might crackle a little bit if you're doing it on too hot of a setting. So if you did want to use that to speed up the drying process, go right ahead, but like I said, use it on a cooler setting and don't put the blow dryer too close to the ceramics. But in a bowl like this, it goes pretty quick to just kind of use the paper plate to fan it. So for the most part, everything is kind of a light chalky color, so you can see that it's nice and dry. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a 2nd coat. Again, just dipping my brush in a little bit of water to get it wet, and then I'm just gonna paint a 2nd layer. This is a really, really fun project to be able to do at home. You can do it in our studio. I think it would be really fun to have like a watermelon themed birthday party where everyone was painting their own watermelon bowls. You could do this on a mug, a plate, a fun vase. A huge bowl would be great to do like a fun picnic fruit bowl, platters, just so many different things that you can do the watermelon design. It just looks so yummy when it's done. It's nice and summery looking. Okay, so you can see we've got a 2nd coat. Again, I'm just keeping the edges real raw looking, just that white area. That's going to be the rind area of the white area like what you see on this here. So again, I'm just going to fan it dry. And then we're going to do 1 more coat before we flip it over to do the back. If you are buying brushes to use at home, get a few different sizes because you'll find that sometimes it's easier to do a large brush. I'm using the larger brush. It goes a lot quicker to get on the inside than if I was using like a medium-sized brush like something like this. I could still get the job done, but it would take a lot longer. So instead I'm using a larger brush for this particular project. But if you get a set of brushes at home, if you're painting at home, the nice thing is this is water-based paint. The paint easily washes out of the brushes, so you can certainly reuse these brushes over and over and over again. Our to-go kits, if you're going online, if you shop online and you're looking at any of our to-go kits, the prices that are on there do not include brushes because oftentimes people already have their own set of brushes at home. But if you did want to purchase some of our brushes, we do have an assortment size that's on there. So check out our website and you can see some of the different options that we have for you. There's always a notes section on our website if you are ordering something online on a to-go kit. In that notes section is where you would write down what colors you want. So if you wanted to duplicate this exactly, you would write down that you would want number 98, number 27, number 49, and number 31. That's also where you could put in the notes section if you're trying to do a watermelon and you would like instructions, and we can include it. As long as it's one that we do have on file, we are more than happy to print out a set of instructions for you. Or like I said, at the moment, the watermelon instructions are even included on the projects page on our website. The projects page actually has lots of fun ideas, so if you're looking for some inspiration, they have anything from super easy to a little bit more challenged. So we have a lot of different ideas on our website for you. So go ahead and check that out. And if you have any questions on some of the different fun techniques we show on there, just reach out to us. Okay, so the second coat is just about dry. We're gonna do one more coat of the red. Again, I'm just gonna wet my brush just a little bit, and for the most part, just dip right into this paint. And I'm gonna paint the third coat. Just to make sure I get it nicely covered. And right up in through here, definitely don't do a real straight line. You want it to be very raw edge, because really it's the rind there that's kind of showing through there, and that's not a perfect line on your fruit, on your watermelon. So we just kind of randomly want to leave some of that white area. And if you are doing this at home, and maybe you're doing this one with the little ones, and let's say they do paint all the way up to the edge, no worries at all. Just grab a paper towel, wet it with some water, and just go right on over the edge, and you can wipe some of that red right off. So before we glaze and fire, any whoopses, any little mistakes we want to take care of, you can easily wipe off. So if you're trying to take it off of an area that's large, just like I said, wet it, and you're just gonna go right on over this with the wet paper towel. If it's a detailed area and you're just trying to get just a tiny little area removed, you might want to use like a Q-tip, wet a Q-tip, and that'll help you to take that paint off in that area there too. But you can see how that just comes right off of there easily. So if the little ones or the older ones went all the way up to the edge because you forgot that you wanted to leave this white area there, no worries, just take a paper towel or even a dish towel or something that's clean, dip it in clean water, and then just wipe it right off and it'll easily come off. Okay, so we've got our third coat, and we can go ahead and dry that if we wanted to, but basically for this next step, we are just gonna flip it right on over. So I'm just gonna set this right on down because this area doesn't have paint. I don't have to worry about the fact that I'm going to set it down. And one thing I didn't grab was a pencil. I'm gonna just grab a pencil here real quick. Okay, so I'm back now with my pencil. So for this next step, we're gonna figure out what we're gonna do for the back there. So what we're gonna do first is we're going to apply 2 coats of this light green using either a large brush or a sponge, but we're gonna use a large brush, and we're gonna paint everything all green right here on the bottom. So I'm just gonna take my brush and I'm gonna just rinse it in the water. You can use the same brush over and over again because it does easily rinse right out. And now I'm going to pour some of the kiwi right onto my plate. I'm just gonna create a little paint palette. So this is number 27, the kiwi. And what we want to do with this, and if you want, you could do this like right on top of a paper towel, makes it very easy for you to, or a paper plate, I'm sorry, makes it very easy for you to turn the plate as you're painting. So now we're just going to dip right into the green, and we're going to paint the whole back of it in this very light green. And again, with this one, we want to do at least 2 coats. It's okay if this color is a little bit streaky because this is the rind or the outer area. So it's okay if some of the white shows through, because with a watermelon it's not super solid green. Sometimes you will see some different variants of that light green color on a watermelon rind. So we want to try to keep it as natural as possible. So you can see by putting it on a paper plate, it makes it very easy for me to just turn this as I'm painting. And feel free to go ahead and do the bottom as well. All right, so we've got 1 good coat of this light green done. And if you're following along and you're not quite done for the next step, just go ahead and hit the pause button. And remember, we have it also in our step-by-step instructions for you to be able to follow along. So we've got the first coat of this light green done. Again, we're going to take a paper plate and we're just going to fan it to just kind of get it a little bit dry before we do our second or our third coat. I'm always happy with this if we just do 2 coats with this back one. If you want it to be solid, really solid green, go ahead and do 3 coats, but 2 coats is really just plenty, I think, for this look. And it just starts to turn like a chalky color. That's when you can tell that it's light and dry and ready for our next coat. So you can see these areas right here are still a little wet, so that's what we're going to work on with fanning. Again, if you want to speed this process up, you certainly could do that with a blow dryer. Just please make sure to do it on a cooler setting, and don't blow dry too close to the piece itself, or you may kind of crackle the paint a little bit. It's really not going to hurt it if it crackles, but you'll just have a different look. You'll have like a little crackling look that's on there. But super simple to just grab a paper plate and just do a little bit of fanning. Go take a break if you want to take a little break. If you're doing this at home, sometimes it's nice to kind of do it in stages. Or if you're doing multiple items, move on to something else and come back to this one. Okay, so for the most part, and it doesn't have to all be completely dry, but for the most part, this first coat is nice and light and dry. So now we're going to do a second coat of the green. I'm going to pour just a little bit more green on my palette here. Again, sometimes it helps to just wet your brush. Don't water down the paint too much though. I just kind of like to wet my brush to get started. Then go ahead and do 1 more quick coat of paint all around the entire item. Feel free to do the bottom. It's okay if some of that green kind of splashes over to the rim of the other side with it being on there. As you can see on the plate, some of the green comes up over the edges. We'll take a look at it once we flip it over to see. We might even want to put just a little bit of green on those edges just to give it some more color over there. So try to get the paints as smooth as you can while they're still wet. If you find it's a little thick in an area, feel free to just wet the brush a little bit with some clean water and you can smooth it down just a little bit. But like I said, try not to water down the paints too much because that will just thin out the color, the final look when it's actually done there. Okay, so we've got 1 good second coat of green done, and I think that's going to be all we're going to do on this one is the 2 coats per the instructions. If you're having fun and really want to do a third coat, go right ahead, but 2 coats of this green is perfect, I think, for the watermelon look. All right, so now we're gonna fan this. So while I'm fanning it, we can kind of refer to the next step of the instructions. So I'm gonna look at the instructions, and basically what it has us doing is drawing that X pattern using a pencil on the back, which is gonna help me figure out where I'm going to put these little X designs of the darker green to give us that watermelon rind look to it there. So for that, for certain, we want to definitely have this paint be nice and dry before we draw with a pencil. If the paint is still wet and we draw on there with a pencil, we're going to be scratching lines into the paint, and those may be lines that we really don't want to see later. So we definitely want to make sure that this coat is very, very dry before we do the next step. For that reason, and to speed up this video a little bit, I am going to take a blow dryer to get it nice and dry. But again, if you're doing it at home, or if you're in our studio and we don't have the blow dryers available for you, feel free to just take a little break if you want to, or just keep fanning it. It really doesn't take long for it to dry. You can see it's turning into that light green chalky color. But just to make sure it's really dry, I'm going to quick grab my blow dryer and I'm going to put it on the cool setting. And I'm going to just blow dry it. Again, see how I'm doing it at a distance here so that it doesn't crackle. And keeping it on a paper plate makes it super easy to be able to turn it. It's almost all dry already, so it really does not take long. Just make sure you're not going real close with a blow dryer, especially if it is on a warmer setting. Okay, I think we're nice and dry there. Again, referring to the instructions, basically what it's telling us to do is just take a pencil and to draw our little crisscross designs on the back to try to help us plan where we're going to get this little rind area going there. So for that, I'm going to just take it and I'm going to just very lightly, you don't have to press hard at all, this is just to help plan it out. So I'm going to draw a line down the middle. And then because this is a smaller bowl, I'm just going to do one more this way and one more this way. So that just kind of gives me an idea of where I want to put my darker green color. All right, so that's all ready. Now there's two ways to get this rind area done with a darker green. If you're in our studio or if you have access to one of these C-type sponges, it's got a lot of texture to it. You would basically be dipping this into the dark green and we're going to be dabbing it lightly to follow the lines. If you're doing this at home, another way you can do this, get this texture design, and most people have some paper towel at home, so you're just going to grab some paper towel and you can scrunch it on up. To give yourself a little bit of a texture look to it, and then that way you're going to dip that and you're going to do some dabbing on that. So what I like to suggest is that you take a paper plate and just kind of test it out to see what look you like. So I'm going to pour some of our number 49 dark green onto a plate, and again, you can use a ceramic plate if you have a dish at home you want to do this with, or you could just do it on a paper plate for your paint palette. And I've got my scrunched up paper towel and I'm going to dip into this paint and I'm going to dab some of it off so I don't have too much on there, and I'm just going to practice to see how that looks. But can you see how that's just giving me a real random look there? And that's really what I want for my rind. If we do have the sea sponge If you have access to one of these, if you're here in our studio or if you do have something like this at home, make sure it's clean. And then you would just dip that into the paint. Again, dab some of it off so it doesn't have too much. And you're just gonna lightly tap, 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 and that'll give you that texture look as well. So for demonstrations, I'm gonna assume that some of you might be doing this at home. So I am going to do this using the paper towel so that you can follow along with me. And I'm going to just dab into here, and I'm going to just follow along with my pencil lines. And I'm just going to dab, dab, dab. To create my little lines. See how simple that is? Super, super simple, guys. Very easy to do with a paper towel. You don't have to have the sponge to do it. This is a fun technique to do on a lot of different things where you want to get a texture look to it. Very light tap. You can always go back and add some more paint to the area. So do it very light first, then see what you think of the look and see if there's an area you want to go back in and add just a little bit more color to. If you found that you did way too much green, you could certainly use the same technique and just add some light green back color right back into it to try to get more of that textured look to it. And we've got one more line we're going to do it on. Okay. Now, let's take a look at the front to see how the front looks. And if we'd like to add a little bit of green on it, which I think we will, I think we're just gonna follow along just a little bit of green right where all those edges line up. So it came right through here. I'm just gonna put a little bit of green just so we have some fun color on those edges. All I'm doing is just seeing where that green came from one side and just coming right over to do just a little bit. Again, not something you have to do, but I think it's fun when the border has a little bit of color. And if you wanted to add a little bit of the green, the lighter green color, you could do that as well by just putting a little bit of green paint around some of your edges as well too, just to kind of give the bowl some more color so we don't just see the red that's there. So a little bit more green there, and just a little bit more of the dark green. All right, so I think that's real good. How are we looking so far? So the only thing we have left to do now is the seeds. You can see we have a fun little watermelon look to it there. So the only thing we have left is the seeds. So for the seeds, we're gonna take some black. And I'm gonna show you a couple little tricks of how you can do this as well. You can use a fine brush. And the seeds basically just have like a little pear shape. So a little dab with the point, little dab with the point. So that's the look we're trying to get there. So we're just going to dip into our paint. And we're just going to do a dab and then draw it down to a point. And then another dab and we can draw it down to a point. Dab and draw it down to a point. If you're not quite sure about doing it with a brush, another way you can do it is you can dip a pencil in the paint and you can draw those little shapes with the pencil, and it makes it very easy to get a nice pointy seed look using a pencil instead of the paintbrush. Again, just a light touch with that pencil. We don't want to scratch into that paint down below. And we want the seeds to be going in all different directions so they don't all go the same way. Make sure you put some at the very bottom. But the pencil trick is kind of easy especially for the younger ones to do, but sometimes they might have a tendency to push hard on that because they're used to drawing with a pencil. So for that, you could go back to using the brush and just, even if it's just little dabs on there. They don't have to be perfect. This is nature. And put however many seeds you want in there. I think we're almost done. Just a few more maybe we'll put in there. I think it just adds some fun little accenting color there. We're just about done here. All right, so what do you think? There we have our watermelon bowl, and then after we glaze and fire it, we're gonna have a nice little match here where we're gonna have our plate and our bowl. Remember, this red is gonna become this red color once we're done, and the greens, everything is gonna be food safe. We dip this in a clear overglaze before we fire it, so the white areas that we did not paint will be this shiny white color when we bring it out of the kiln for you. So the last step I do recommend, if you're painting at home for certain, you want to sign your artwork. You would put your initials on the bottom. You can either do that with a fine brush, or if you want to just write it in pencil for us, and when we get it back before we glaze and fire it, we can go over your pencil with a fine detail bottle that we have. Or just write us a little note that says, please add my name, or please add my initials, or please add to Mom with love, any little message you want us to put on something. Just write us a note and we're happy to add that on there for you. Just tell us where you would like it, what color you'd like it in, and we can finish it up for you. So this is ready to be fully dried. Then we're gonna dip it in a clear overglaze and fire it. And right now we're running about 7 to 10 days turnaround for this to be then picked up at our studio again, and it's all ready for you to use as your fruit bowl or ice cream bowl or popcorn bowl or whatever you want to use it for. Hope you enjoyed this. Let us know if you have any questions. Again, this is Color Me Mine, and we look forward to helping you paint some more projects soon. Have a great day.